They said I was too quiet to lead, so they fired me. What they didn't know was, I'd already built the system they couldn't live without. I watched in silence as their empire fell apart, piece by piece. Then I bought it. Not out of revenge, but because no one steals from me twice. If you've ever been underestimated, you'll want to see how this ends. This isn't just my story. It could be yours. My name's Sarah. I wasn't the loudest voice in the room, but I was always the one writing the code that made the company billions. At Volt Secure, a cybersecurity startup fueled by VC egos and 80-hour weeks, I built something no one had ever seen before. Phantom Layer, an AI system that could detect insider threats before they struck. Real-time anomaly detection, adaptive neural defense, military-grade encryption. The kind of thing that changes everything. Everyone used it. No one understood it. I wasn't invited to board meetings. They called me too quiet, like silence meant weakness. But I heard what they said behind glass doors. I saw the contracts they thought I'd never read. They smiled at demo day, clapped at investor pitches, but they never once asked why Phantom Layer works so well. And that was their first mistake. Because while they were talking, I was already 10 steps ahead. They didn't fire me for breaking a rule. They fired me for knowing too much. After Phantom Layer started gaining traction, securing major government contracts, drawing headlines, pulling in 7-figure licensing deals, I noticed something shift. The energy in the office changed. My name disappeared from presentations. Mason, the CEO, started taking solo meetings with clients I had onboarded myself. No one said it, but I wasn't part of the vision anymore, just the engine behind it. Then came the paperwork. An HR rep I'd never met booked a performance check-in. She slid a contract across the table, all smiles. Just formalizing things, she said. A revised IP clause buried on page 9. Subtle, technical language. It transferred all ownership of Phantom Layer to the company, retroactively. They thought I wouldn't read it. I said nothing, signed nothing, and walked out of the room calm. The next week, my access to core servers was restricted. I was told there had been security protocol changes. When I asked questions, I got polite silence. That same afternoon, a legal notice appeared in my inbox citing internal friction and misalignment with company culture. Effective immediately, I was terminated. They even made me sign an NDA in exchange for my final paycheck. They underestimated me. They thought I'd panic, that I'd lash out, that I'd go quietly and watch from the outside while they scaled my creation. What they didn't understand was that I never trusted them to begin with. I had read the fine print on day one, not just the legal kind, but the cultural kind. The way Mason always smiled a beat too late. The way meetings ended just before I entered the room. The way my name was never quite on the pitch deck, even when my code ran the entire demo. They built the company around my work, but they forgot one crucial thing. They didn't build me. I didn't rage. I didn't protest. I just watched as they celebrated a launch I had architected, without access to the system's core. I watched Mason on a podcast, talking about vision and teamwork, while skipping over the fact that no one else on the team could explain how Phantom Layer's internal threat detection sequenced behavioral signatures. What they took was a shell, a copy. The real system? That was still mine. Because they didn't just sign away trust when they forced that clause. They started a countdown they didn't even know existed. They thought firing me was the end. But I wasn't writing code to impress them. I was writing code to survive them. Phantom Layer wasn't just software. It was a living system. Adaptive, self-correcting, immune to tampering by anyone who didn't understand its internal logic. What Mason and his board never realized was that its core wasn't just protected. It was bound to something only I controlled. They didn't read the code. Not deeply. Not where it mattered. At the heart of Phantom Layer was a dynamic authentication loop, something I called a trust cipher. On the surface, It looked like a simple key rotation script. But buried inside was a cascading dependency, a time-triggered cryptographic signature linked to an external verifier. That verifier? Me. My private server. My key. My control. They cloned the front end. They deployed it to clients. They ran demos for investors. But from the moment they cut me out, the system began to degrade. Not in obvious ways. Phantom Layer was smarter than that. It allowed small things to slip through. Let one or two threats go unflagged. Then it started triggering false positives, flagging safe processes, slowing systems, blocking trusted users. It was like watching a city blackout, one neighborhood at a time. By the time they noticed, the damage was already growing. Support tickets started flooding in. Clients were confused, frustrated. Why is it flagging our internal servers as hostile? Why is our network freezing at random intervals? They couldn't trace the issue because they didn't know what to look for. They thought it was a bug. It wasn't. It was the absence of a heartbeat. Phantom Layer was calling home and getting no answer. Mason tried to patch it. I saw them spin up emergency engineering meetings. They looped in contractors, ex-employees, anyone who'd ever seen the architecture. But no one had the full blueprint. No one but me. The twist wasn't that I sabotaged the system. I didn't. I never needed to. I just never gave them the part that made it sustainable. They copied the body. They didn't understand the soul. Then came the call. It wasn't Mason. It was a senior advisor from their largest client, someone who'd worked with me during early prototyping. He didn't threaten. He didn't beg. He just said, "We know. This isn't working. We know why. What would it take to fix it?" I gave no answer. Not then. I sat in silence and watched the stock dip. Watched blogs question whether Volt Secure had overpromised. Watched the VC partners pull scheduled funding rounds. Mason went from keynote speaker to ghost in a matter of weeks. They didn't see it coming. Because while they were chasing headlines, I was coding architecture. While they were selling, I was locking doors from the inside. Every contract they signed based on Phantom Layer's promises, I held the key to whether those promises delivered. They fired me to erase me, but they forgot one thing. You can't steal a system you don't understand. I didn't raise my voice. I raised the stakes. After the collapse started, I let it burn. I didn't interfere. I didn't offer help. I didn't respond to the emails marked urgent. Silence became my leverage. Every bug report, every investor inquiry, every missed benchmark, they felt it. And while they scrambled, I built. In a downtown co-working space with flickering lights and peeling paint, I launched CypherShade. No press releases, no LinkedIn announcements, just clean code, real security, and a team that believed in clarity over hype. I rebuilt Phantom Layer from scratch, stripped of the corporate branding, the bloated UI, the marketing fluff, just performance. Transparent, peer auditable, unbreakable. Within a month, clients started finding me, not through ads, through the wreckage. Their internal security teams were desperate. Volt Secure couldn't explain what had gone wrong. I could. Quietly. Precisely. And word spread fast. One of Volt Secure's biggest contracts, a global logistics firm, reached out. I didn't pitch them. I simply let them test CypherShade. No promises. No jargon, just results. It worked. Their breaches stopped overnight. They left Volt Secure within the week. Then came the others. Healthcare networks. Fintech groups. One by one, the foundation cracked. Mason finally called. He opened with flattery. "You've built something amazing, Sarah. We were short-sighted. Let's find a way forward." I let him talk, then he pivoted. "We can bring you back in, CTO, equity, full control of the roadmap. He still thought this was about a title. I told him no. Not angrily, not arrogantly. Just a clean, final no. That's when desperation hit. He offered to buy CypherShade, full acquisition. He even offered to put my name on the original patents, retroactively. That's when I knew he was out of cards. You don't offer to rewrite history unless you're trying to erase your present. I declined again, and I made my move. Through a holding company, I quietly acquired VoltSecure's remaining assets. Office leases, leftover IP filings, and yes, the brand name. They needed to liquidate fast. No one questioned the buyer. I didn't buy it to resurrect it. I bought it so no one else could. I stood in that empty office, where I'd once sat in silence while my work was praised and my presence ignored. I wasn't angry. I was clear. I didn't destroy VoltSecure. They did that themselves. I just made sure it didn't happen to anyone else again. That's the thing about power. It doesn't always come from shouting. Sometimes it comes from refusing to speak until every word matters. They fired me for being too quiet. But silence gave me leverage, and leverage built everything they tried to steal. I never wanted revenge. I wanted ownership. Standing alone in VoltSecure's old boardroom, now empty, stripped of its sleek panels and investor plaques, I felt nothing triumphant. No dramatic fist pump. No gloating. Just clarity. I wasn't there to celebrate their downfall. I was there to reclaim what they never truly valued: authorship. Phantom Layer was never theirs. Not the idea. Not the architecture. Not the intent behind it. They saw code. I saw a shield. They saw profit. I saw responsibility. That difference, that invisible line between exploitation and protection, is where everything changed. They built a company around a product they didn't understand. And when it crumbled, they looked for someone to blame instead of someone to listen to. But I had already moved on, not to forget, but to evolve. CypherShade wasn't just a new version. It was an answer. A secure framework owned by its engineers, governed by transparency, and open to third-party audits. No hidden clauses, no manipulations. Every contributor knew what they were building and why it mattered. That was the real win. Owning what you build isn't just about legal rights or stock options. It's about knowing where your work goes when you're not in the room. Who uses it? How it's deployed. Whether it protects or exploits. I'd learned the hard way that brilliance means nothing if you don't defend it, and trust means nothing if it isn't mutual. I kept the VoltSecure name, not out of nostalgia, but to close the loop. To make sure no one else could wear it like a mask again. That chapter was over. CypherShade was the future. The code lives on, cleaner, stronger, free from compromise. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't demand recognition. I just kept building. And in the end, what I built couldn't be stolen. Because I'd designed it to belong only to the one who understood it enough to protect it. I wasn't the quiet one anymore. I was the one who walked away with everything that mattered. And I did it without becoming them. They called me difficult, because I didn't play along, because I didn't smile while they erased me, because I built something they couldn't control. But here's the question that matters now. What would you have done in my place if you saw your work twisted into a tool for power games, if you were cut out of your own creation? Would you walk away? Would you fight back in court? Would you stay silent and disappear? Or would you do what I did? Build in silence. Prepare. Your move and take it all back on your own terms. This wasn't luck. It was design. It was choice. So ask yourself, when everything you made is on the line and no one's coming to save you, do you wait to be rescued? Or do you make sure they never forget your name? You know what I did. Now tell me, what would you do?